So, welcome to the Halle Live. I know that one's muted. Just to double check, Luca, my guy, can you hear us?
Yeah, Luca represent.
Sound is good. So, sorry that we're a little bit late. This guy's train was a little bit cancelled, but he has just ran all the way from where? Hauptbahnhof, which is apparently the most sport that he's done in a while, which is very easy to believe because, yeah, running that far is, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So, for those of you who don't know, this is Julius Klein, part of Gefam.
I don't know how to act.
No, it's okay. We just chat. So we're in Die Halle, and we're going to be chatting a little bit about just genuinely what you do. We chat a lot when we have the chance. We do chat a lot, so it's quite nice for me to be able to sit here with friends. Do you know what I mean? I'm lucky enough to have this position where I can do it. So basically today I said this earlier. Oh, shiny boy.
Yeah, shaved yesterday.
So today we're going to be talking about Julius. We're going to be talking about how he started parkour, as well as the team that he's part of, which we will get to soon.
We still have fleeces in the shop.
We'll talk about. We can do a little bit of a plug later on. Okay. But I find him call him an interesting character. I wouldn't say that to his face, but he's pretty unique, and I think that I really enjoy his passion for artwork and his just, how do I put this, ability to be the alternative. So we're gonna start with that, but we can't fist bump every single time.
I will fist bump you for everything.
Okay. So before I get on to half an hour ranting about myself, Julius, if possible, I'd like you to first of all start with a short summary
of me,
of you, like what you do at the moment.
Right now, okay. So I'm Julius, and I'm 19 years old. I used to live in Frankfurt, but now I live in Hamburg because I'm studying design. Almost done with it. I only have a year left, and then I'm hoping to be tattooing. But yeah, so I can't train at the moment. Not doing much parkour, but usually I'm always at the sessions when I'm in Frankfurt. But yeah, that's me. Just good parkour and art. What you said.
Parkour and art. So, I don't want this to turn into a kind of like how I started, kind of throw back in the golden days, because there's a lot of stuff that you're doing right now that is really cool. But I find your how do I put this, upbringing quite interesting, because for the people at home, you'll notice that his accent is kind of, well, I find the accent amazing. Like the accent is interesting. But where was it that you actually, like, I don't want to say grew up, but where was it that you grew up?
So I was born in Brunei.
Where?
In Brunei.
Brunei.
That's like it's in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
It's on the same island as Borneo.
Mm-hmm.
Problem though. Right. What's good? The waiter is here.
Cal is bringing his coffee. Abstand. Thank you very much. Sorry, guys. We're thanks to we're a little bit late in the start of this. On sugar and milk, sir. Thank you very much. Wow. It's not normally this. Thank you. It's not normally this much in the Halle. But yeah, sorry. You're in Borneo, near Borneo.
Yeah, exactly. Borneo is the island, and Brunei is like the tiny ass country.
Yeah.
Right on top. And then when I was 3, I moved to the UAE.
So United Arab Emirates.
Exactly. Right? And then I lived in Abu Dhabi for 2.5 years, in Dubai for 1.5, and then in Abu Dhabi again for 6.
Nice. So what age were you when you came over to? Was it Germany that you came over to?
Yeah, I came to Frankfurt then.
You went to Frankfurt. And how old were you?
I was almost 13.
Right.
It was in end of January, 2014.
And at that point, had you heard of parkour? Or
yes.
What were you?
Yes. I had a friend from Scotland who was in my class.
Right. This is the first I've heard of this story.
No, I got to keep the good ones.
Right.
And then basically someone showed me the Stunts Amazing fucking compilation.
Right. Okay.
Of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And that really Like I watched it and I was so mesmerized because I had never heard of it before.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, that's kind of you, because I used to do gymnastics.
Yeah.
As well for 1 year.
Right. And were you good at gymnastics?
Yeah. I was in the competition and got first place.
Alrighty then.
That's the only thing I ever won.
What kind of gymnastics?
I think it was like all around. I was
Okay.
I was 10.
Okay.
And so yeah, everyone was like, that kind of be cool for you. And then I watched the video and I was like so mesmerized by that shit. And then I showed it to my friend. His name is Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Oh, that's so sick!" And then we went out in like compound areas where we lived.
Was that in United Arab Emirates? Or was that like
that was I was like 12.
Right. So you started parkour and then you moved over to Frankfurt.
Yeah, but it wasn't really start. It was like, so basically we just jumped on walls and cracked bunnies. But
no, from what I understand, the founders of parkour,
yeah, that's true.
All they did is when they were about 12, went outside and jumped on walls.
I feel better now though.
Yeah.
Because like I felt like I cheated my way, because I felt like when I came here I didn't do parkour for like a year or something.
Yeah.
And then my mom found like a course in this place
in Frankfurt,
close by my school,
right,
where they offered like a parkour class. And for me, that's when I started.
Yeah.
Because that's then when I met Luca, and then I gave him an Oreo. This is true story. I gave him an Oreo.
Right.
And he liked it so much. Like he was so happy that I gave him an Oreo. He was like, "Yo, we should be friends. Let's go train outside." And then
love it.
That's for me when I started parkour.
And this is Luca. How do you say his second name? Because I always butcher it.
Before, like, but we just say before.
Yeah. Okay. So Luca
like
before, and he is currently, not gonna lie, he's sneaky in the Zoom right now. So your boy's there. And I'd like to, if you can, Luca, in the little chat, can you confirm that it was the love of the Oreo that sparked your guys' friendship? We'll get on to Luca in a sec, just because Luca has a lot to do with these peeps. But yeah, so you started in Frankfurt. Can I quickly ask, like, the group or the course that you were training with? What were they? Who was there? Do you remember the name of the coach? Always got to represent the coaches, if you know what I
mean. His name was Andre. I don't know his last name.
Right.
And then we had this one guy who was called Chris.
Yeah.
And then, but he left quite early. And then we had a new guy who also worked in my school.
Mm-hmm.
Called Lars. But I know none of their last names.
Okay, cool.
We just call them by their first names all the time, and had fun.
Okay. Well, Luca has just confirmed that the only reason he's friends with you is for your Oreos. So, true story, fact check in real time. So, you were about, what age? You were about a year, so you were about what, 13 when you got back into parkour?
Yeah.
And at this point, yeah, you were with Luca. And you're 19, so I mean, you're basically in GFAM. So when did GFAM? Okay, one step beforehand. What did you like about parkour? What was it that drew you to it? And when I say parkour, I mean the general sense of parkour. So like free running or that kind of grayish area at the time.
For me, it was like being a monkey.
Being a monkey.
Like, I know, like, funnily enough, I feel like I don't at all move like a monkey.
Mm-hmm.
But I have some ideas in mind for when I'm back to training. Yeah. Mm-hmm. When I'm back to training, I have some plans that I want to, like, where I want to improve myself in parkour.
Okay.
And it's gonna be oriented in that, like, direction.
So yeah, so you're at this point, you're in Frankfurt, you're training for what, a little bit, a year or two maybe, with a year sort of off. So now I guess we can go into, like, what is GFAM? When did it start? Did it just be like start, or did they start it and you became part of it? Or was that your original crew, or was that your first team? Or?
So I'm remembering stuff that I haven't thought of in like ages.
Good.
So okay, GFam started 2017. That's when we dropped, or they dropped.
Okay.
The beginning. Yeah, the beginning. The first video.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't in GFam back then.
Okay.
It was Luca, Eugen, Lucas, Jovan, Julius, not me, Justin, and Mo.
Okay.
And then Mo kind of stopped doing parkour.
Right.
Justin kind of stopped doing parkour. Julius kind of stopped doing parkour.
Yeah.
So they would never be at session.
Yeah.
They were just not present.
Right.
And then at some point they added me.
Okay.
And Mo was like still there, but he wasn't there.
Okay.
And then they realized like, okay, Julius and Justin, they're not really training. They don't have the same vision as we do.
Yeah, they're there for like rep team, but not actually.
Yeah. So they kind of left, and then in like I want to say 2019. Yeah, 2019.
Mm-hmm. We have Luca in the back on the computer, fact checking everything. So if you say anything wrong, so good. Luca's got my back.
Dude, this run killed me.
No, I feel the same. I went for a run earlier. My throat is killing me, but don't you worry, just keep breathing. So I do have a question though, because you said
in 2019 we added Simon.
2019 we added Simon. I say we. They added Simon. So my question though is because you said it started 2017. That's actually close to when I met you, I think, because I moved over after 2017. Right. So my question is, what were you doing? You did?
You met me 2018.
2018. My question is what were you doing in between the years of starting training with Luca and getting onto GFam in 2017? Just training, just kicking about.
I was in school, and I failed a year because I was doing art in class.
Right. You were drawing in class.
On myself, actually. Funnily enough.
Okay.
We can call my mom fact check.
No, we don't need to call your mom and fact check, but I believe you.
And yeah, so I failed a grade, so I was in school a bit longer. No biggie.
Yeah.
And then I got, at some point I just got added, because actually I didn't just get added. This is all the doing of René Shepansky. Good man, good lad. He was fighting for me.
Yeah. Pushing to put you into GFam.
Yeah, he was like, dude, this guy's sick. He's always chilling with you.
Who was it who made the decision? Who's the?
It's like,
or is it a group thing?
We're a democracy. We do it with majority. I think there are some decisions where it has to be unanimous, obviously. Yeah, but in general, it's like the majority.
Nice. So for me, I have a mad passion for GFam personally, not just because my boy. When I first let's go back a little bit. When I first met you, you walked into the Halle, and you were some dude that I didn't know, with this kind of crazy style, which was like way more kind of skater. I think you had those chef trousers on, those black and white ones, and he had a kendama around his neck. Now, for those of you who don't know, I
didn't bring mine.
Today you didn't.
I wanted to, but I forgot.
I don't have mine either. We're rubbish kendama people. But for those of you who don't know, I am part of kind of European rep of a group called Sound Kendama. So Sound Kendama has always been a thing for me. So to see kendama on somebody else, it's kind of like seeing I don't know, like Kalenji's, or that's really outdated, or like, do you know what I mean? Like,
no, Lucas started with Kalenji.
My guy. So Kalenji's, or it's kind of like you recognize them, you're like one of us. So when we started playing, it was this kind of American sounding dude who I hadn't seen train parkour before. He just came in and I was like, who's this guy? And then I was like, nice. So we just started training together and then just kind of chatting rubbish. And I think that your strong look, and when I say strong look, we can talk about what I mean in a sec, but not that strong. Yeah, just kind of the vibe. And I think me and you just trained a lot. And then through you, I started to know GFam. I was lucky enough that you brought, I think, Simon Cronk over, and he also is now into Kendama. Look up Simon Cronk. Kendama guys, sick stuff.
There we go.
But what I really like about GFam personally, and actually, before we go into that, now I actually had the other T-shirt on. People at home, I had the really nice one. They've got 2 T-shirts at the moment. This isn't a plug. This is me just generally going. I really like the T-shirts with the little GFam logo here, which is similar to this one. However, I was eating a smoothie today, and within the first 2 seconds of eating the smoothie, there was this big drop of stuff. So I had to do an emergency thing and switch to this T-shirt. So, but it's given me the opportunity to go through these pictures. Now, these pictures or drawings, did you draw these?
Yeah, I drew them, and Luca colored them. But the coloring was like and he drew the logo. He drew this.
Right.
And the coloring was like a collaboration effort. I was like on Photoshop.
You were on crayons and he was on felt tip pen.
No. I was on Photoshop.
Okay.
Skype call, Luca on the other end in Frankfurt. I was in Hamburg. And he was on Photoshop. And then he was like, okay, what color should I paint the face? And then I was like, And then I clicked somewhere on the thing, and it gives you the fucking code. Right. The color code.
Yeah.
And then I just kept telling him codes.
Nice. So my question that I was going to ask is, can you go through real quick, who are these people? Because as much as they are amazing drawings, Julius, no dissing, they're not necessarily easily recognizable unless you know them.
I want you to guess first.
So I know this one's you, which is the one that when you were showing me that I was like, why? Which is the hat and the glasses.
I know. I wanted to bring the glasses too. But I was like, it doesn't match my outfit.
Yeah, right. So here we go. Here is this. This is Luca.
Yeah.
Whoa, got you, boy. This is Luca. This is Joel. No. Who's this?
No. Lucas.
Luca.
Lucas.
Lucas.
Luca.
Lucas. Okay, good. Eugen?
Yeah.
My guy, he was on recent. Yeah. My guy.
Catch represent.
Yeah, and who's this guy?
That's Jovan.
And who's this little guy here?
That's Simon.
That's Simon. Why is Simon so small?
Because he's a baby.
I'm fairly sure Simon's taller than you. Well, no, not at least taller than me.
He's taller than you.
He's definitely taller than me.
Yeah, but it's according by age. Look, most people don't know this. It's a family portrait.
Oh.
So Eugen is the grandpa.
Right.
Hence his gray hair and the cardigan.
Yeah.
Then Luca and Lucas, because he's the oldest. He's the oldest.
Yeah.
Luca and Lucas are both second oldest. Luca is older than Lucas, but it doesn't matter. They're the 2 next ones. So they're the parents. So they're the tallest. And then I'm the 3rd oldest. So I'm like the teenager.
Right.
And then Jovan is the 2nd youngest, so he's like the toddler.
Okay.
Simon is the youngest, so he's the baby.
Well, this T-shirt now makes a lot of sense, because I'll be honest with you, when you look at the style of this T-shirt compared to the other one, I was like, this one feels very, very different. But I think that, to be fair, that's what I like about GFam, is this idea of the and I'll be talking about it. I know the guys, but I don't want to. I'll be talking about it as if it's a separate entity. But I think GFam to me really is. You've got a strong look. I've said this before, and what I mean by strong look is just like it's different. And I feel as though all the guys on GFam are still parkour, but they're kind of a different type of parkour.
A different genre.
As genre, I personally look at it a lot more. It's like the skater vibe, whereas I think a lot of a
lot of inspiration does come from that.
Yeah, so this is just Calum's take. Do you know what I mean? It's not that. But when I look at GFam, you are young guys. We'll get onto that in a sec. Because you're only 19. Simon is like what, 17?
17. He turned 17 like 2 months ago.
Luca is
19.
19. So you're all. I'm not going to go through all.
Eugen's 20, and the rest is Eugen's 20. Luca, and I are 19. Jovan is 18, and Simon is 7.
Yeah. So you're all relatively young guys. I say
Yeah.
relatively. You're all younger than me, which is
Yeah,
young.
because you're old.
I'm old. Luca. Julius calls me grandpa quite a lot of the time. I've grown to
He
like.
calls me child.
I call him child.
It's
Anyway,
fair.
let's not have a bickering match on live on Facebook. But what I like about it, is I guess it's a strong look. All of your videos as well. I don't know. I think who's your main editor?
It's Luca, and Simon.
Cool.
Do the editing.
Mad props for that, because I think that their editing, your guys' image is really unique. I watch your videos now, and I know I can see. I call it the GFAM look, almost like I can see the edits being really unique. And I think for me, and we'll get onto this in a sec, I've said that 4 times, but it's different. I can't really say what it is, in a sense of like, I can't write it down and be like GFAM is different because of this, but there's a definite, for me, a definite style. There's a definite look to it. Whereas I think the sort of parkour world, and yeah, this is Calum just being generalized, but I think a lot of it has been quite, athlete based and quite go out there and I don't want to say stay fit, because it's not that, but it's kind of like strong boys, do you know what I mean? Whereas GFAM, it's still got some strong boys, but you guys are just out there pushing it. So and being what I would call the alternative. And I think that comes from, obviously in the parkour world, there's a trait of young men mainly, but young boys, pushing it. Like, do you know what I mean? Storer is also a good example of, they had their own strong look and they had their strong vision and their thing, and they've gone off and done it. GFAM for me
And they're doing it really well.
And of course, I don't think we need to, Storer as always.
Yeah.
Our guys. But I think that they're known. What I like about GFAM is not just that you are a team, but the family vibe. It's cool that you say family portrait, because it's about to go into this. Is like, what I get from GFAM is the family vibe is important to me.
You know what's funny? The fam in GFAM does not stand for family.
What does I can't believe we didn't get this. What does GFAM mean?
It's a secret.
It's a secret. Okay, cool. Because I've heard GFAM being told. I've heard it being called GFAM. I've been called it GFAM. I also thought it was like German fam. That's where I kind of went.
That's what most people think.
Yeah. So
German fam is the most standard.
So until you guys get a bit older, or one of us beats you up, we're not going to find out what this is yet, right? You're not going to tell me. I don't. Luca, you don't need to. I think, okay, we're waiting for Luca to. Maybe one day. Cool.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
He's rolling me.
At one point, if you can whisper in my ear what it is, that would be personally really nice. But
because usually, like, people ask us this all the time,
mm-hmm.
and then when we're meeting us, and it's only us, sometimes we're like, what do we say?
Yeah.
Like how do we react?
Mm-hmm.
And I almost gave it away. Yeah,
you almost did. So let's stay away from, just because my guy, I don't want him to slip up, and get taken off of GFAM live on air.
I swear, Luca.
No, it's okay. We're all watching the chat for Luca. This is the first time, or not the first time, but we've got someone interacting. But my point is you guys are just young guys doing your thing, and I think that's we talk a lot, and there's a lot of things that, let's say, I don't necessarily agree what you're doing, or it's a bit out there, but I respect the out there-ness of it. So going into let's say your other passions, there are, I think I talked on the story there, you're an artist. You're studying that now, aren't you?
I'm studying design.
Okay.
I want to study art, but you want long story?
Yep.
Okay. So in the middle of 10th grade,
yeah,
I felt like, I always felt like I don't belong in school, but I was like, damn, I really don't want to be here. So I talked to my mom, and then she knew of a design school in Hamburg.
Right.
Because like a family friend, her friend works there.
Yeah.
Something. And so I made a portfolio, checked it out, and then I had like a meeting, and then they told me like, yeah, you can come. That's no problem. And then I got the contract and everything. And yeah.
So you just came.
Oh wait, no.
That was you said long story.
Yeah. I was so I arrived in Hamburg, started uni. But I realized then, and even more over the course of the time being there, and also after, which is something I'll get into in a sec. I realized that I wanted to study art, and I wanted to live in Frankfurt again.
Okay.
Because Frankfurt is where the boys are at. And I don't know, I feel more at home there.
Yeah.
For me, that's where I'm from.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was born in Asia and grew up there, but
home is Frankfurt.
Home is Frankfurt for me. So I'd much rather live there, but I did try to, and I applied in some places. I didn't apply in as many as I could have. But long story short, I didn't get into any. And then I was on the verge of going back to Hamburg and finishing uni because I had done like a break semester.
Yeah.
Like for just in case. And I was so like I was applying in this one place, and I had 5 days to let my uni know that I'm staying. You remember this?
I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. So and the like the date where it's announced when you get in the school I was applying, they didn't like it was after those 5 days. So it was either I'm gonna risk it and lose this opportunity, which is only 1.5 years more. It's pretty easy. Like it's a very chill life that I live right now. Yeah. I have nothing. But I mean I have a lot of uni stuff to do. But that's only because I'm very bad with managing. Yeah. My uni stuff. Yeah. If I was good, then I wouldn't have nothing.
Yeah. So, because I want to talk about this a little bit, because I find this interesting, is that because I remember when you moved to Frankfurt for a little bit.
Yeah.
And the reason why you wanted to move to Frankfurt was simply because, as you said, you wanted to be with your boys. And I think that in itself is a very kind of cliche thing, if I can say that, says Pete. But for me, there's something deeper within that, as you say, that as I said, GFAM is a sort of family vibe, and you do feel more at home with them. And I'm wondering, first of all, how was making that decision? Because I know what was going on in your personal life at the time with like what your parents were saying, if you should do it or not. I remember me saying to you, I don't know if this is a good idea, if you know what I mean, but you did it anyway, and you went down, and obviously you have come back. But I want to ask, how was the experience of making these kinds of decisions? Do you know what I mean? How stressful.
And everyone thought it wasn't stressful.
Yeah.
Like it was full pressure the whole time. Like I'm getting emotional. Like it was tough. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It was tough, but it was also exhilarating. Yeah. Because I was like, I'm fucking 18.
Yeah.
I can do what I want, you know? Yeah. And then I did what I wanted. And like I made some stupid decisions along the way.
But the point is, do you regret?
No. No, of course not. Because I learned so much. Yeah. Like I had so many new experiences. Some really good, some really shit. Like the whole spectrum. And I wouldn't have trained as much had I not been there.
Yeah.
Like, and I didn't train a lot because my wrist is broken. It's been for 1.5 years now. But I have an appointment next weekend, Friday.
Nice. I'll write it down.
Not in Frankfurt, but close.
Yeah, okay.
And then I'll be going to Frankfurt. But the other boys are going to be in Madeira.
Madeira, where's that?
It belongs to Portugal.
Okay.
But it's like deep in the Atlantic.
Okay. So kind of sticking with this idea, what my point was more, I think when you believe in something or you feel like you belong to something, you want to be with it. And I think that sometimes, especially in a world that's telling you, no, you need to do it a normal way, there needs to be a normal way, there needs to be a kind of like, you need to do it this way or else it's not going to work. It's definitely, as you said, stressful to make a decision against that or make a decision for yourself. And even if it's just to make a decision to have an experience, which is kind of what you're talking about. But what you did is essentially like explain a little bit, because I know it, but I don't think the people at home know exactly what the situation. You don't need to say everything, but the point is the situation. Who were you living with? What were you doing
when I moved?
When you moved down to Frankfurt, do you know what I mean?
So at first I lived in a 3-room apartment, one living room, 2 bedrooms, 1 kitchen, and a bathroom, with Mark Bush, Rafa Rubin, Kevin Allein zu Haus. That's his Instagram. He has, I keep forgetting his last name, but it's something with P. And with Dennis Smith. And I had a mattress in the living room.
Yeah.
And then like a pile of my clothes.
Yeah.
That was how I was living.
And how was it moving there without or like the normal security that you would have having a flat here, being with family and stuff like that? Was it?
It was a bit like stressful, but it was like it wasn't that bad. Like I always got by somehow.
Yeah.
It was, of course, it was a bit stressful, and sometimes I was like, it sounds worse than it is, but sometimes like I was hungry. Like,
yeah.
But that's because of irresponsible behavior.
Yeah.
Like
money management.
Yeah. And yeah, it was a very important learning experience, because I had zero privacy. I lived in the living room with sometimes 2 other dudes.
Yeah.
And we always had guests.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was at least 4 people.
Mark Bush is one of the wholesome, nicest people I've ever met. 100%. Shout out to Mark Bush. I'm sure he would do that for anyone. There's not many people who would allow people to just turn up in their house and just hang out. But I think that's my point, or like what I was trying to get to. This idea is as much as it was a difficult and stressful time, the stress doesn't disappear, but it was and you've learned a lot. Do you know what I mean? As you say, I've seen the difference in you now compared to the Julius that left, which is really nice to see. I don't know if it's because I'm old and I can see these things, but it's this.
Well, you are old.
Thanks. But it's this idea of it's the fact that you did it and you tried it out anyway and you learned from that experience. And I think that's something that on a personal note is something that willingness to try something regardless of what it is that you're doing is something that I definitely identify with parkour. But I have mad respect for you for doing that. Do you know what I mean? Especially the fact that there was no real security. People around you were being like, yo man, you're just 18, are you sure you want to do this? But it's definitely it's giving you a learning experience to go from. So yeah, just props for that. I think that was a good time. But you're back in Hamburg now and you've decided to finish your uni?
Yeah, I've been here since
October, and you're just finishing your design course.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Cool. I am listening. And yeah, obviously, just as a side note, how is studying? I'm sure, hopefully, there's a few students out there watching this, but how is studying? You don't need to go too deep, but studying in lockdown in these times that we have.
So my uni, it's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically, the teachers are in the uni most of the time.
Yeah.
Some are not.
Yeah.
Most courses are where you have to be there,
Yeah.
but you can also join via Zoom. So it's always both. It's online and physical.
Yeah.
But other courses, they're just what's it called? They're just completely online.
Yeah.
And if I have a present, like where I have to be present, I always go, or usually go, because I can't work at home that well.
Yeah.
Like I get distracted by everything. Like it's bad in uni, but it's not as bad as at home.
And is that something that if I said to you like a year ago, being like you will want to go to uni and not be at home, would that be something that you would believe? So this idea of being like, oh, we've got an idea of not going to school or going to school. Every school kid would be like, yeah, I'm not going to go to school. And yet I hear that a lot with people at the moment.
Yeah,
they find it really difficult.
I remember when I moved here to Frankfurt, when I came the first time from Abu Dhabi. The first 3 days were the longest 3 days ever.
Wow.
Like, so the first week or something, we lived in a hotel. And and the first 3 days I didn't have school. We arrived on a Friday, and it was Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday I went to school.
Yeah.
And we were just in the hotel. We went outside, but like I had nothing to do. I knew nobody.
Yeah.
Just had my brother, but like we were both doing different things.
Yeah.
Because our like we do have similar interests, like art.
And just how many brothers do you have?
One.
You have one brother.
One.
He lives where in Frankfurt?
Yeah, he lives in Frankfurt.
Sorry to cut you. I just wanted to actually bring we could talk for hours about nothing, but I think what I wanted to bring it back to with this idea of art and this idea of the visual art that you do. What kind of art interests you? Or the question is why art? What is it about the visual art? Because you could do all kinds of art. Do you know what I mean? Art is a very broad thing. For me, for example, theatre art is kind of like physical art is kind of what draws me personally. I like visual art, but the theatre art, the physical art is more what I do. But for you, it's a lot more sort of visual. And I'm just interested because we're about to tangent off into tattoos, which is why I'm going in that direction. But I want to start with because obviously the art came before that tattoos. Also, the art influences the GFam stuff. A little side note: GFam recently released their what's it called? Tape 1.
Tape Volume 1.
Tape
Watch
Volume.
it now. It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. But I remember calling you when you were
actually watch it after the live stream.
Watch it. Don't watch it now. You actually could still be talking the entire half an hour. So, but the point is I remember calling you as you were making that, and you made an animation at the start of a parkour video. Now, for me, that's nuts. Do you know what I mean? Like that, I haven't seen an animation in GFam. So before we go into that, because I want to keep it kind of around, what is it about art, and what kind of art do you like? And I know that sounds very general, but see if you.
So okay, like short answer is all art.
Right.
Like if I can appreciate everything I can see, hear, and touch.
Okay.
Like everything I can feel with my senses.
Right.
That I can appreciate all art.
But what is your art? What is specific? What is the kind of art?
Long answer. As you said, it's mostly visual stuff. And usually because it's like I would get distracted the whole time if I just kept realizing like that's some cool stuff. Like I rarely try to see the beauty in things, which is a shame. But I rarely focus on that because I don't know why, but I'm just because I get distracted. But if I really start focusing on stuff, then I always get like inspired, especially by plants and in that, especially flowers. And then also heavily like in anti-aesthetic and.
Can you explain what anti-aesthetic is for those of us who don't
So
study art?
it's
anti-aesthetic. So
it's like,
so what you're saying is what you like is stuff that isn't meant to look nice.
Exactly. Like you can make something like you can make something beautiful even if it's fucking shit.
Interesting.
Like I don't know.
No, I fully agree. For me, tying it, or at least let's say when I say tying it to parkour, it's my version. But this idea of like for us,
and I love the roughness of it.
Yeah. Now, for me, that's exactly how I talk about, for example, some of the grimiest parkour spots that I know. Like if we look at Vauxhall Walls, rest in peace, they were essentially just concrete walls in a housing estate in London. But we as parkour people go in there and we see beauty, we see potential, we see things. And I think that, am I right in thinking it's kind of the same feeling of looking at something that's not necessarily aesthetic, but you're able to see value in it?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. That's for me. That's that in itself is really interesting.
But I think there's one difference. So for me, I make something that's rough and anti-aesthetic.
Yeah.
And there it's seeing something that's anti-aesthetic. Because for me it's also about the just like fuck it, like just go, like the whole vibe it gives.
I think yeah, and we've never really actually talked about this, but yeah, it makes sense in terms of how we, or at least in my eyes, it makes sense in terms of the whole vibe, because like even with skating is also a large part of your style, as we talked about, tattoos, and a lot of these things are sort of anti-establishment and also anti-establishment, anti-authoritarian, anti the system, as cliched as that is. But it's interesting to hear how that's guided your art and guided your viewpoint on art. Do you have anywhere that you actually share your art, just as a little bit of a place? Do you have a?
I have it's like @tattoo on Instagram.
I'll write this in the comment section below afterwards, just to see what you see his art, because I've watched his.
That's where I post my tattoo.
I've been watching his art. I don't want to do this.
And I do photos on Julius Klein with 2 S's and 2 K's.
Julius Klein, 2 S's, 2 K's on thing. So yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's really interesting to hear, and I do see it when you actually see his art stuff. A lot of it is, let's say, anti-aesthetic, but it's also aesthetic in the way that it would be like a flower drawn really strangely. I mean, I am no art critic. I'm going to be using some weird words. Oh, we're going to get into your tattoos in a sec, because I really want to talk about it, because it's not just you. But yeah, I find that interesting. It's interesting that you are now studying design for that anti-aesthetic, and I feel as though that is a way for us to just as a way to that feeling that we have when we look at a parkour spot, or we look at something that we are like, actually there's beauty within that. It's cool to have a conversation about art about that, because obviously that feeling drives you, and I think that it's a passion that you have, as we talked about, and it is a way that for parkour people who, let's say, they don't want to look at Picasso and all that other stuff, I like that idea of here's an art form that you can connect with.
Also, I'd like to add, it's for me, it's really hard to speak about my art, not because of emotional reasons, but for me it's like really hard to give an absolute answer when it's about art, because it's so objective. No, subjective. Yeah, it's so subjective that, like, for me it's really hard to speak about my art, especially, but also art in general.
I think also you're touching on a kind of feeling that I also find with parkour in terms of teaching. I don't know if I said this to the group that was here before you came, but I was talking about this idea that for me as a parkour coach, it's not necessarily our responsibility just to teach our kid to do a really good Kong. It's a part of us to represent the culture.
Sure.
And because the culture is always evolving, it's kind of difficult to look at the culture objectively, but also know your opinions of the culture and know that you're part of it. Do you know what I mean? And how do you talk about something that is inherently you at the same time? So of course, with art, with your art, or talking about art in general, it's going to be hard for you to do it, in the same way that it's sometimes hard for us as parkour people to be like, what is parkour? And you're like, well, it's jumping on walls, but in some ways it can be this, and in some ways it can be this.
Like, it's jumping on walls. It's also not just jumping on walls.
And also, as we said, not to get on this point again, but also like, it's, for me it could be jumping on walls, but for you it could be an anti-establishment.
Exactly.
For somebody else it could be a revolutionary act. For another person it can just be fitness.
100%.
But it doesn't. So I understand what you're saying about your art, but it's always interesting just to hear what you think about with your art, because we are now going to go on to your passion for tattoos, right? And I don't want you to take your shirt off, but over the time that I've known Julius, he has gone from being almost squeaky clean this. I think you had two or three, and now recently you've gone nuts with it. And I think that
I recently counted, but I added more.
Yeah,
so
how many?
I don't know, like,
what was your recent count? How many tattoos?
I'm ballparking. It's in the 70 to 80.
Now, before we go any further, I feel as though there's a responsibility on me to say that although Julius is my guy, I do not necessarily condone the way in which he's gone about it, because the person that he started tattooing and the person I think that he's practiced on the most is himself. So for all the young people watching, my advice would be the same as be responsible, think about it.
Wait till you're 18.
And wait till you're 18. Now, when did you start tattooing yourself?
I waited till I was 18, except for the first two.
Okay.
Like the little ones here.
And
actually, no, that's.
Let's not incriminate yourself real quick, but
it's not criminal in Germany.
Is it not?
It's just only all tattoo artists don't allow it, because a child can't legally say.
Oh yeah.
Like, they can't sign a contract that because in the eyes of the law it's what's called assault.
Oh yeah, okay.
So it's like, you need to sign. You can't say that you wanted this assault if you are
a kid.
So
my question is so going into this now is, I'm going to ask you some really generic, obvious questions on behalf of all reasonable people out there. Why did you do it to yourself? Do you not think you're going to regret it when you're older? And yeah, do you continue wanting to get tattoos? What is it about the tattoos that you like?
So when I was younger, I wasn't at all punk.
Yeah.
But I really liked punks, like the aesthetic. I remember this very vaguely. I used to want the fucking mohawk. And that kind of that wasn't really present, but always this rock star kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Has always been there in the back of my head. Like a heavy attraction towards it. Like,
yeah,
this is awesome. And like when I was like around 10ish, 10, 11, I started watching like snippets of the show Miami Ink on YouTube. There were never full episodes. And then at some point Ink Master, and I started getting really into tattooing, and ever since I can remember, I've wanted tattoos, but that was when I really got like into tattoos.
So my question is because obviously, like, I don't want to, again, talking about cliches almost. When I was younger, I thought punk was sick, right? Yeah. When I was younger, I was also like, yo, I always want to get a tattoo. Yeah. The problem with me, I don't have any tattoos, is just because we are in talks about this, but there's the cliche that it needs to mean something. Do you know what I mean? Or it's this idea of I think I just never really had the confidence, to be honest. But my question is for you, is it just the picture on your skin that you like, or is there, and again, this is subjectiveness of it, but what is it about Is it the
It's
visuals
a
of tattoo?
representation of me. I'm like a good curator, like the museum, like a gallerist,
Okay.
like his gallery in some way or another is gonna reflect him,
Yeah.
like how he is.
Yeah.
Because it's usually things that he likes
Okay.
or he doesn't like.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, whatever the theme. Which is the same with tattoos. My skin is the gallery. I'm collecting and drawing on myself. Sometimes more spontaneous than other times. But I don't know. It's like, yeah, I'm more me as well, because I feel a strong connection to visual art. So why shouldn't I be visual?
I want to record that and just put it on a snippet. So, yes, that's sick. Fair play. Take one in. My question is for you, like, to the people, and the people are like, yeah, but you're gonna regret it when you're older.
Man, I'm gonna look shit when I'm old. Might as well look shit with style.
Nice. Fair play. I've seen a lot of, let's say, older people with tattoos, and that's the thing as well. If I'm honest, sorry, Karen.
Let me interrupt you there. One time in Frankfurt, I was in the tram. This was this summer, and there was this old guy. He had like a little beer belly. He had like a cap, a red shirt, like a beige vest, like a fisherman vest kind of, and then like beige corduroy trousers and some shoes.
Yeah.
Like Nike, New Balance, old New Balance, like dad shoes.
Yeah.
And his arms were completely tattooed, and they had aged, like he got them when he was like super young, so they were barely like recognizable, and there was this complete, like, it was everywhere. And I remember looking at the dude. He was wearing the Corona mask, so it made him look even cooler.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in the train, and I was like, I want that to be me when I'm older. Like, I just thought he looked so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I didn't really want to be old. Like 60 was enough, because it might get boring, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had this as a side note. I had this thought recently where it's like, well, I'm 26, which is still very young, but I still sit there and go like, oh, shut your. I still sit there and be like, I've just existed the longest I've ever existed. Imagine existing for 60 years, like just
exactly,
madness. But I think for me, kind of bringing it back to this is just more the fact that So my question is, before I say the statement, talking about this idea of regret, or like this idea of like, I don't, from what our conversation has been, it's not that you think about your tattoos. Do you know what I mean? It's not you, as far as I'm aware, it's not, sometimes it is you just doing it, but it's not you just doing it without really thinking about it. Or do you sometimes be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do this?
In rare cases, it's fuck it.
No.
See, I see. So first of all, any reason to get a tattoo has a meaning. Like, I thought the picture was cool. Boom, that's a meaning.
Mm-hmm. Like, that's true.
But I do have some where it was just completely spontaneous. Like this one here, I gave a friend a tattoo, and every time I tattoo someone else, I get jealous.
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn, I want a new tattoo.
Yeah.
And this one, like, I didn't have any flash with me, any designs I had previously drawn, and I was so eager to tattoo.
Yeah.
I just quickly sketched something up, and I was like, cool.
Yeah.
But
I mean, sorry.
And I don't regret them. Mm-hmm. I think to myself, wasn't necessary, but no one's gonna know.
I think it ties into our conversation earlier about like going to Frankfurt. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't do it, but it's the experience of doing it that allows you to learn from it. Do you know what I mean? If you didn't do that one shitty tattoo, you won't have the feeling of like, you know what, maybe I'll learn from it.
Also, how boring would it be if I only had good tattoos?
I mean, right, because In a way,
like
especially
good tattoos.
especially if we're talking about the reason why you do tattoos, because if you're looking at yourself like I'm the curator or the gallery owner, your tattoos on your body are a story of how you got into tattoos. So you'll be able to point out your first ones, and they will be of a certain kind of quality, and then you'll get older and older, and you'll see it get better. My question for this as well is, because we've talked about this, do you have any advice for young people out there? I say young people, you are a young person, I'm technically a young person, say nothing.
You're old.
Do you have any advice for young people out there who want to get tattoos, want to go out there and fucking just be like, yeah, I'm putting tattoos? Do you have anything to say about that? You said before, what was the thing that you said before? You said something along the lines of, wait till you're 18.
Yeah.
If you don't remember, I will say the thing out loud, what I think it is, but I want to see if you...
You mean the thing with assault?
No, I mean, do you have any advice for you? So let's say I'm like 16, and I come to you and be like, yeah, I think tattoos are cool. I'm going to start tattooing myself all over.
I think if you want to start tattooing, regardless of age, now forgetting about the people who should, I think you should start on yourself.
Yeah.
It's because if you can get like plastic skin,
yeah,
and then tattoo that.
Yeah.
I've tried it once. It sucks.
Yeah.
But I did that recently. And like it's you get right into it.
Yeah.
Full consequence.
Yeah.
It sounds like way more hardcore than it is. But in my eyes, it's not that.
No,
it's like you're trying to familiarize yourself with something. So you need to do it.
Yeah. I remember we were talking about what your mum was saying about your tattoos. And we're not going to go too much into your like family stuff, but I remember what she was saying. And I personally, I think I agree with this, is this idea of too many too fast. I think what you're saying, I've also got friends with tattoos, is tattooing. Not, let's separate the idea of them, the person doing the tattooing, but tattoos in general. This idea of it becomes almost addictive.
Yeah, it does.
And I remember a conversation that we had about, because now you've got like, what, 70?
70 to 80, yeah.
And you've only been tattooing yourself for like a couple of years, and you're going into the tattoo.
I've been tattooing myself for just over a year.
Just over a year. So, do you have advice for people who want to do lots of tattoos?
Who want to get tattoos? The advice, 16-year-old. I would tell them to wait till they're 18. I didn't necessarily, I sort of did, but I just because, well, first of all, it's more enjoyable. Fuck yes, 18 now, I can get a tat.
Right.
And second of all, because it's also a valuable lesson to learn, to wait for something.
Yeah. But like, I guess I'm going to just come out with it. I remember having a conversation with you about what your mum was saying about this idea of, and I agree with this idea of doing too many at an age in which you start out, because as we say, like you've only got about this much left of your skin that isn't necessarily covered. Do you know what I mean? So my point is do you think what is your perspective? So are you okay? Do you want to be completely tattooed top to toe by the time you're 25? Or
yeah.
But then does that leave you space to do more tattooing?
Well, my mom asked the exact same thing.
Yeah. I think straight up, mums all over the world, as much like you always ask the right questions. So I rep his mum. Shout out. Julius Klein.
I think for me, personally, I think there can never be no space.
Okay.
I mean, now I'm getting too in depth, and now it doesn't matter. There can never be no space. Okay. Like I could color my whole arm black.
Yeah.
And then you can either laser it or go over that with another color. It won't show as much, but at some point it's just going to be. But I mean, that's also hard.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I'm going to do a few blast overs, which is basically you just do piece over a piece.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's so cool because you have a new tattoo, so you have two tattoos, and you have one new art piece
on top of it.
which is the collage of both, and that's something you made.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's cool. I think for me, this the point that I'm trying to get is just more not be responsible with it, but and I guess this is me kind of this is more us having a genuine conversation than this kind of tune. But I think that for me as an outside observer, watching your journey of tattooing, as I said, it's really nice to watch how there's some of these earlier tattoos and then they've developed. You've now got a dragon on your hand that I've just seen, and it would be nice. Not obviously it's all personal, but it's also nice to have space and give yourself time for your art to develop, especially if you are the one making that art. If it's just you putting tattoos of other people's tattoos, that's cool. But I think that this idea of tattooing yourself to almost be like, okay, this was a time of my life, and then a few years later I got this one, and that kind of thing. Do you agree with that idea, or are you just being like, nah, I want to tattoo everything?
I don't not agree with the idea.
Okay.
Like, for me, I think, like, I get a tattoo.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, maybe I should wait a bit till I get my next one. And then the next time I'm on Instagram, my feed is filled with tattoos. First one I think is cool. I'm like, damn, I should get a tattoo. And then it's in my head, the idea has been planted. And then boom, I'm ready to get a tattoo.
I mean, the reason why I wanted to talk specifically, Lucas says, listen to Calum, bruv. It's cool. I'll be in his life for a while. I'll be saying the same stuff. The reason why I want to talk about it is because you're not the only one. My guy, Calum Archibald, don't know if you'll ever see this, Maji, but
Callum Archibald is legend.
Callum is what I would call my other Callum.
Should I text him to go watch it?
No, we can.
He's always on Facebook.
We can call him right now. No, Calum Archibald is someone that I've got mad respect for. He's roughly your age as well, and I am talking about like a generational thing almost. Is that he is also tattooed to a similar extent, all over his body, and I find that. I guess I don't know if that's a comment thing, but I find that interesting that there seems to be within a generation that's younger than me. Granted, we are the same generation, but there's also separations between us. Yeah, thanks, bro. And this idea of it's kind of like, I don't want to say it. I mean, your words. It's like, fuck it. It's this idea of like, we'll just do it. And to an extent, I really respect that, and I think that it would be interesting. And this is a personal thing again. It's just interesting to see how that is, because you've also you've met Cal as well. Like, you know, I mean, I saw you with your tattoos and saw Cal and was like, oh cool, and then you've met them and I was like, cool. The guys who are of that age where like I remember being like, oh, they've got tattoos, and let's say the adult in my head was like, I'm not sure. But knowing you guys personally, it really does fit with your character. It fits with what you're about, and it fits with your perspective on life. So it's kind of, for me, it has been that kind of, as much as I think everyone needs to have a certain responsibleness to it. You have proven to me that although you have out there ideas and you have out there wanting to do things, you've done it anyway, and you've done it with a level of reflection. Do you know what I mean? You're not doing things and not thinking about the past. I feel as though you are also thinking and you're learning from it as it's happening, if you know what I mean. So I think that with the tattoos, as you say, tattoos are a very full commitment kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? They will be on you, and I think that's what I'm trying to say is the respect for both you and Callum is, regardless of whether or not you look at these two individuals and think what you've done is good, you cannot question the level of commitment that you have for being you in a way, and I think that is what I respect the most.
Someone someone dear to me, or never mind, someone once criticized my wantingness to be me.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. And like, basically they said that I constantly strive to be different and that I need to prove to everyone. And it pissed me off so much.
Yeah.
So I got into reflecting, and I think part of that is true.
Sorry, I'm getting rid of it.
But I think like that, like I have to be. Like, I have to want to show me. if like in what I'm doing, like I'm doing art and I'm doing parkour, I need people to see me. So I need to do what I can.
I also think that you need to have a certain level
And
of
see me for me. No.
And you will change. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You as a person will change, but it doesn't mean that you need to wait until you're the perfect person to start showing people who you are.
Exactly.
And having the confidence to show yourself
Yeah.
who you are. And I think on a personal level, I've done the opposite. Do you know what I mean? When I was like younger, I was not that confident. And it's actually the older that I get and the more I think is I'm like, okay, cool, I can do stuff. But it's I think a lot of people, if I'm honest, are kind of taken aback by that. Do you know what I mean? Especially, oh, it's just a young guy saying what he wants and does what he wants and kind of out there. And I think that in itself is good, but it's this kind of it's how that is communicated. Do you know what I mean? If you're, for example, let's go back to the mum idea. Parents are only saying that because they want, in theory, not every parent, but most parents are just saying that because they want what's best for you in their head. Yeah. And if they are brought up in this head, in this generational idea, they will think that. Do you know what I mean? They think a certain way and they're trying to do that. Whereas you know yourself, but also the other side is you don't know what can go wrong yet.
Exactly. Also, like when I imagine having kids, like in my head, I want to force parkour upon them, right, and make them like the best. Right. So but I now that you're saying it, I'm realizing, damn, that's the same shit my parents are doing to me.
But I think I think you are right I can understand that feeling but it's not the moves. Okay, let me speak on behalf of you maybe, and you tell me if I'm wrong. But it's not necessarily the moves and the cool shit that you want them to have. It's the friendship, it's the experience, it's the empowerment. And I think we'll get onto that because we are coming up to the last sort of 15, 20 minutes of the time that we have here. Also because you need to be ready for uni. As I remember, you've got uni at 6. Is this idea of, you don't care. I don't think you care whether or not your kid does a double cork. It's the crew. It's having the team. It's having
and
the
that
group.
He does the double cork with style.
And with style. So can we get onto this a little bit? Because this is the thing that I think is interesting. Is GFAM has style. Now, style is a really difficult thing to even talk about because in a lot of ways it's exactly what you say. I think somebody can do a Kong with just them, and then another person can do a Kong with style. And I think that what would you say style is?
Style is certain attributes of like something, in this case a move, executed in a, I don't know what would be normal, so in a way that looks flowy, like it moves, like it makes the movement look more like an art piece.
Yeah. So I think going off of what it is that you just talked about this idea of you being undeniably you and you trying to be you, if I can tell me if you agree with this idea. I think style is the ability to bring your individuality into the thing that you do.
Yeah.
So for example, when I was younger, I idolized Pasha because of his style. If you guys don't know who Pasha is, I'm not going to shame you, but wow. Pasha is a mover who undeniably has style, and the style is weird, but it's his movement. And for a long time, I tried to emulate that. I tried to copy those movements, and I never got anywhere. I always came out of it being like, oh, I can't do this. It's really hard. And the one day that changed is when I started to be like, hold on a sec. Pasha isn't going out there trying to be Pasha. Pasha is going out there doing himself, being him, going with what his body wants to do. Yeah. And the minute that I started to do that in my training, that's when people started to be like, whoa, that kind of looks like Pasha stuff. Or like, whoa, I don't get that. That's Calum style. And then people are being like, yo, that's Calum style. I'm like, what is Calum style? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I can't be sick. So my point is if this idea of style that you're talking about, and I see this in all of you all, GFAM undeniably has style. And I've been racking my brains into like, what is that? And I think it's because your group specifically, and also Stora have their own style. Do you know what I mean? I'm just taking GFAM as an example. your personality shines through. Do you know what I mean? It is undeniably you. You're not doing the biggest jumps in parkour, but you do the jumps as yourself. And I think that the ability, the fact that you have studied art and the fact that you are going into, let's say, a sort of art realm that is very much you, and you fought for that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, there's a proving yourself kind of. I relate to that a lot. Do you know what I mean? That kind of like, you know what, I'm out there, I want to be me, undeniably me. But that also indicates, if I can say so, a kind of insecurity in oneself.
Yeah, 100%.
So you need to be vulnerable to be able to be yourself, because you need to put yourself out there. And I think that's what style is. I think that if you are training parkour and you're just doing it to be like everyone else, or to do like, oh, I want to do it like this, you're missing the point. And I think that, if we can go back to that conversation, that is what you say when you want to force your kid to do parkour. It's not you don't want to force them to do parkour, but you want to give them the gift of undeniably being themselves.
Yeah.
And now switching this back to GFam, you've got that with your crew.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? GFam are your people, and it's not this idea of you've all got a vision and you're going in a similar direction, but you don't know where that destination is. And I think that's what I like about GFam and the way in which they work, is you are all individuals pushing and being together as a family. Now, I don't want to turn this into a Calum fucking lecture about my theories in parkour, but I see that everywhere. The tightest people, the people who are the best and have the best style and stuff, are either people who have been undeniably just themselves and pushing themselves, in, let's say, the Pasha example, or the people who have got a tight crew of like-minded, roughly the same age, or not necessarily same age, but similar individuals, and then they have become that identity. Stora would be an example of that. Do you know what I mean? So thank you for coming to my short TED talk. But my point with you is the fact that, yeah, I can see you. I'm only ever going to say this once, probably, to your face. What inspires me about you is this undeniability to be you, to be different, and how you bring that into every section of your life, which is why I wanted you to come on and talk about art and your tattoos and your other passions, because we could have just talked about how sick doing a concrete is for an hour and a half. Don't talk to me. But the point is, yeah, I don't know. Most of our conversations have nothing really to do with parkour, and yet we can always relate it back to that. And I think it's because of this idea that the thing that we not necessarily take
our reality.
And I don't know. I really enjoyed this, how this is kind of going, because this is my point. It's just GFam. I like the way that you are going, because you promote both very unique individuals, not necessarily like, let's say, mainstream. And I wouldn't necessarily say I agree with everything that you're doing, but you are undeniably yourselves. And I think that personifies, in a way, the message that we want to give when we're like, all people are like, oh, I want to teach people parkour. But I think it's that individuality, it's that confidence within yourself, and the support system of your friend group around you, that you can be like, you know what, I am going to be me. And if anyone has got a problem with it, I got my boys or my people. Do you know what I mean? I've got women in my life that will be
my boys.
Yes, he has a tattoo of GFam on his stomach. Do I think that's a good idea? Yes. I am not that person to say, but do I respect it? Yes, I do. My God. So we're coming into the last. We've got about 15 minutes or so left in this chat, and I think that thank you if you're still here. Fantastic. I think it's great, because I don't know if we've ever, like, we just sat down and talked. But
how can we see how many people are there?
No, we're not. I'm not letting you. That'll get to your head. The point is, yeah, man. I think that for the reason why I wanted you to come on is because you are undeniably an individual. You're not necessarily somebody that would go with the mainstream, but you're also somebody, if I can say again, that we've talked about our vulnerabilities and our kind of like way of being, and how that is also important. You wouldn't be drawing flowers if you weren't connected to that side of you, if you know what I mean. And yeah, I just find GFam and what you're doing and your undeniable you-ness gives me and also other people not an loudness, if you know what I mean. I am now allowed to go off and tattoo myself. I was always allowed to do that, but it gives me context. It gives me me, you know what, it wasn't easy to go off to Frankfurt, because I know a lot of people are like, yeah, I can just go off and do this, and I'm like, actually, it's not as easy as you think. But it's your ability to do what it is that you want to do, think about it, take it on board, but still do it yourself.
Yeah.
And obviously that has the same to do with parkour when it comes to like doing jumps and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Do you get what I'm trying to say? To pass it over to you for the last thing, I want to ask, what advice, and again, this is just kind of teaching, but like, what advice would you give to young parkour people? And let's say the cliche of, I want to be in a parkour team, or I want to get famous, or I want to like, you know, get out there. What advice do you have for young people who are doing parkour, who want to do parkour for a living?
I have two answers. One, watch GFAM tape volume 1.
We'll get to that at the end. I'll plug it at the end.
2, I think have fun. Just, if you have an idea that's a bit spontaneous and maybe not that smart, but you're most likely not gonna die, do it. Most likely don't get hurt in any physical or mental way possible. Do it. Because like Luca and I, we flew to Portugal a few days ago.
Did you have corona tests?
We didn't have to.
Okay, that's
because it's not risiko, maybe.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Otherwise I'd be in point.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's so fucking so travel. Weird. So yeah, we were in Faro, Portugal, and just for 4 days, and it was a completely spontaneous idea that we had on New Year's Eve. No, the day after. And we had booked nothing but the flights, and then we arrived. It was middle of the night, and then we just walked to the beach on the island and slept at the beach in our sleeping bag, and it was fucking cold. And like in that moment, we were like, "Fuck, what have we done? Like we're freezing our ass off." But then now I'm thinking, dude, it was kind of funny. Like the adventure, like it's not just going to fucking Portugal. It's the whole story of like the spontaneous decision to buy the tickets to then realizing, oh crap, we have no place to stay, and just everything in general.
Yeah, so I'm trying not to talk too much because I realized that I might have talked for 10 minutes straight earlier.
Yeah, so it's all right.
Cheers.
So also, by the way, my uni
Tonight?
Yeah.
Cool, we can chat for hours then. No, man, but that's again that's because I was messaging you when you were in Portugal, and I saw you guys sleeping on a beach. But this is the thing, it makes sense. Do you know what I mean? To see you and Luca on a beach, just being like, yeah, I went to Portugal. Why? Because on the surface of that, do you know what I mean? On the surface of that sounds dumb. I love you, but that sounds dumb. But in terms of the knowing you and knowing what it is that you're doing isn't necessarily dumb because it ties into what you're saying as well. And as you say, you came back, you were fine, and you had a learning experience. Maybe the learning experience is either we'll look for a hotel for 5 minutes before we go to Portugal in winter, or the learning experience is, you know what, sleeping on a beach in Portugal
is cold.
It's cold. And that is still a learning experience. And I think that's still...
I mean, it is January. And it was the coldest Faro has ever been in a while. So we were unlucky.
So I have a last question. This idea, because I'm trying to tie it in, this idea of, for a fancy word, I'm going to call it reactionary learning. This idea of doing something, reacting to it at the moment, and then learning from. Do you think that is something that you got from parkour? Is that something, do you think you got from...
I think everyone has that.
What is the cocktail?
I think everyone has that, but it's less developed. Like, I mean, when you're a baby, your parents are just speaking. Like, you just learn it because you're there and you see what's happening. Like, if someone says this and the person does that, like, it's just like training dogs. You
right,
you tell them to do something and they get a reward for that. Like, they learn that if they do this, they get that.
Yeah.
If a baby sees that, he says this, that will happen. And like, I think it's somewhere in your head. But for some people, they just either ignore it, like they don't focus on it as much, because there hasn't been many. What do I want to say? Yeah,
Experiences.
yeah. They haven't had many experiences to properly learn from.
Or do you think they're also learning from like other people's experience when people say that's not a good idea because this thing happened to me and that was bad, and they go fair play?
I think some of it also has to do with ego. I think actually all of it has to do with ego. Like you can think to yourself, okay, this is a bad idea, and still do it because your ego is telling you like, fuck.
Yeah.
I think it's ego.
I've forgotten what the question was, if I'm
So
honest. Yeah, so we're
but
just talking.
I remember.
This is why we're getting to the last sort of 10 minutes of our chat, because at one point a conversation with us just turns into kind of like, yeah, what were we actually talking about?
Yeah.
But I think it's coming to this idea, and I am gonna, for me, what I'm getting from this is this idea of, yeah, just be yourself, have fun. That's interesting enough. That's exactly what Julius, you are Julius, Julian said is the number one thing for people who are up and coming is have fun with it. I wonder, and this is something I ask myself a lot of the time, is for me, do you think you would have got as far as you are now, or be the person you are today, if you only did parkour? Only, just solely parkour by itself? Or is it also the fact that you did all these other things that have
100%. Atmosphere shapes you. The people you're around. Like the temperature. I mean, everything. Everything around you shapes who you are.
So, I mean, yeah, I think it comes, for me personally, I also agree. I think that a lot of people, especially young people, they come into parkour and they focus on the parkour aspect, whether that be free running, parkour, ADD, same at this point. But I think it's really easy to overlook the environmental aspects, or for example, who you are. I did theatre. That was my main thing when I started, and theatre was the thing that allowed me to look for meaning in stuff that might not necessarily have meaning. When you study art, you look at a painting that means nothing to you, and then you look into it and you learn what the artist meant. So you can kind of look for meaning when it's not there. So that's why a lot of my theories of parkour is very meaningful. Do you know what I mean? Like, I go deep in any conversation I have, even though parkour is on the surface just jumping walls.
Sometimes it's really hard to follow.
So my point is I think that the one thing that young people might necessarily miss is the fact that your friends and the people around you is what build you.
Yeah, 100, 1000.
And that either means your friends, and sometimes we're lucky in the sense of we have friends that push us and do things like that, but also sometimes we have friends that we don't realize, I don't want to say pull us down, but being aware of our environment and what we are more than parkour. Because I think that by exploring, let's say, your passion of tattooing has helped you understand what it's like to be seen as different in society, and I think that kind of being seen as different in society is also what we experience as parkour people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what I've learned from us, because the more that we become mates, the more I appreciate, and the more I'm like, you are somebody in my life that, even though we don't see as much of each other as I want, we still influence each other. And I think that in itself expands as well, like, because I know you've introduced me to Simon, and then Simon and I have done kendama together, and now he's a tank at kendama, and that just kind of spreads what's possible and spreads your perspective, and it changes you. So like, and I guess that's the kind of theme in a lot of these that I'm coming up, is have fun and having fun with your friends.
Yeah. Like, why else? Like, okay, this might, I don't know if I'm a hypocrite for saying this, because
everyone's a hypocrite. Everyone.
Because I tend to get very mad when I'm training. I tend to throw little hissy fits, and for me, it's still fun though, because like, it's just, while I'm doing it, I'm having fun, if I fucked up, it's like, fuck, I fucked up. Have my little hissy fit because I fucked up, but then I'll just do it again.
I mean, I am also an angry boy.
And then I'll be even happier when I get it.
Yeah, true. I mean, I am, as I said, I am also an angry boy. And I think that also, and this is, again, here comes the deep chat, is I think that stereotypically men or young men are, the anger is the emotion that we are allowed to have. If we get frustrated, I'm sure there's been times where like we would have rather sat down and cried about the fact that we couldn't do a jump, but the way in which we get that frustration out is anger. I get what you mean from experience wise, why that anger can sometimes help, but there's also, and I'm sure my guy Mark Bush might agree, is for me, his energy is something that stops me from being angry.
Mark is I think he's one of the wisest people I know. He's so like, I don't know. He just has an whole he's like a guru.
Maybe we need to get Mark Bush on this.
Yes, 100%.
But I think to stick with the point before it turns into another ramble is this idea of the anger is a tool. But I mean, we've had chats where I've been like, yo, calm.
Yeah.
And then you've calmed down and then you've done it first try. I've seen that. We've done that together where there's a thing that you're fighting. You're like, no. And then you're like, you know what? Relax. So I think it's possible, again, this kind of idea of, I agree, right? I also think that being calm, and I'm preaching it to you and be like, chill. But if anyone's ever trained with me and there's a challenge that I'm trying to get, I'm the angriest guy. I will do the same jump 1,000 times by myself.
And the worst part is, I get angry. He's like, he gets angry at me for being angry. If he gets angry, then I tell him, yo, chill, and then he gets angry at me.
Well, I think, yeah, okay, let's.
But I'm the same with other people.
Yeah, I think, but this going into the point is, I think that there are certain people who know you really well, and this is your crew, let's say, who can cut through that. Like when you tell me to calm down, as much as I may get angry, it helps me to be like, okay, my guy Julius is telling me to calm down, I'll level it. Robbie Griffith is another guy who, whenever we're training, he can just tell me.
But do you let them know? Because my ego doesn't.
No, of course not.
I
try to practice that by practicing that, which is why I'm telling more, like, do you know what I mean, saying it more. And you will also get to a stage where you're like, okay, I want to actively start telling them. But you will, do you know what I mean? I know that I will still get angry in my training. I know I'll still get annoyed, and to one extent that's okay. But I am also on the vibe of trying to go the other way and helping other people. Yeah. Because that's the other thing, is if you help other people, regardless of whether or not it's like being angry or whatever, those people will help you when you need help as well. 100%. And that's my point with having a tight crew, and it can't just be the crew of like, oh yeah, we're tight. You need to know that they have your back.
Yes.
And you for you, and being able to be like, yo, you are angry right now. I get it, but please chill. Because it's the same with, like, you know what I mean? You've got a broken wrist. When you had your broken wrist, I remember telling you, stop training because you were injured. And you're like, no, but I want this. Nah. And I'm like, no, sit down. Do not hurt it, because I want you to be healthy for next week, not in 4 months, right? And you hate me at those points. I know it.
Fast forward to 1.5 months, over 1.5 years.
1.5 years. Your hand is still done, but that's learning. Do you know what I mean? This is the other thing, is yes, Julius has got injuries. Yes, he didn't do it, but he is able to now talk to us with that learning and be like, you know what? I've tried it. I did it, and it was done.
Yeah, and now the second surgery I'm getting, I might need to wear cats for 6 months.
But I mean, this is like it's going to be rubbish, but you've learned from it. Hopefully.
Yeah, and after that, like, it has a 94% chance of healing if successful. So
stick with it. But bringing it back is, I think that having people who are regularly there to look out for you gets a better connection with those people, so you can more honestly take on their life advice or advice in general. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And I think that is what you have in GFAM, and I think that's what when you look at this sort of the larger groups, and when I look at these people, it's those type people around you that build you up and you go places. So I think I'm totally taking your story and just making a point with it in my own way, but I think I'm part of it, and you're part of mine, and it's all that kind of good stuff that we're all part of each other's stories, as it were. But the more we talk about these things, the more we can, I call it weaponizing, the more we can weaponize and being nice rather than just allowing us to be horrible to each other. So it is, right? So we're going to tie this up because we are now at the time to finish, roughly. we're gonna ask you if there's anything else you want to say. Before we go on to it, GFam, as we said, has got on their YouTube, Take Volume 1. It is half an hour long. It is an amazing edit.
Yeah.
It really shows the style. If you've never seen a GFam video before, that's the one to do. My guys in it: Simon Prompt, Luca, Lucas, Eugene, and Jovan. Sorry, Jovan. Check him out.
And there's a bunch of others on there as well.
I'm not on it. One day. I'll just be in the background. I'm always in the background of videos. Is there anything you want to finish on? Apart from we've not talked about cats. You love cats. If you follow him on Instagram, you'll see the cats. Don't mention cats.
I like it. Yeah, gotta represent again. It's probably my favorite tattoo. One of my favorite tattoos. Yeah. If you want tattoos, hit me up. You're gonna plug it.
Yeah, I'm gonna post his Instagram handle in the comments. Question: what do you have planned for the future? Oh, let's not go too deep because we don't have that much time. But I want to ask, what is there anything that you're working on just now, or do you have, let's say 5 years? What would you like to be doing?
I want to have like a crib, a home apartment with 2 cats.
Right.
I want one naked cat in black. We call him Lucifer, and then I want one white furry cat called Kvag, which means kvak in Swedish, and I don't know what kvak is in English. It's like cheese, called cheese yogurt type stuff. Like sour cream.
Yeah.
And I wanna have a studio space, not just for tattooing. I want like a room where I can just create. Because right now I have a really small room, and I'm not claustrophobic, but it has a kind of claustrophobic trapping kind of vibe because it is so small. And like I'm at the roof, so it's like slanted. And I bump my head almost every day. It's horrible.
Tall boy.
And I feel so confined, especially with my creativity. I feel like I said, everything shapes you and shit. So I think if you're in a bigger space, I think there's much more you can do. Like, is bigger better? In a short form. So yeah, I would love to have a studio space where I can just make art, do tattoos, and just do me, make a bit of music here and there, because I'm an artist, and I need all of or I want as many mediums as, because same shit. I'm an artist, and these genres of art are my gallery.
Yeah.
It's all a big gallery in galleries of galleries.
Yeah. Other question, and you don't necessarily need to answer this, if I don't know is also another, but where do you see GFam?
Yeah, that's another thing. Join that with the 5 years. I see, I don't like, maybe it's a bit narcissistic in the sense of GFam, but I have very few doubts. I'm fairly confident, because if it was just me, I wouldn't be. But I see the potential in Luca, in Eugene, in Jovan, in Lucas, in Simon, and I know even one of them is enough. So if I'm there, it's gonna be fine. I think we have so many opportunities with what we can do because of our style, because it allows us to do that kind of stuff. Like, we made papers. And I think we should utilize that more. We don't have the budget yet, but hopefully then we will, so that there will be way more creative freedom. And I think that is when GFam is really going to be at its peak, is when we can fully fully express. Because though we are on a quite good path right now, I think there's, due to some stuff like budget and like time, I think we're a bit restricted. But as soon as that is gone, I think it's gonna be full blown G-Fam. It's gonna be wild.
I feel like you're almost restricted by your ambition. Do you know what I mean? I think that you guys are young
Possibly.
guys. You guys are. I can already see it. That I see Luca. And it's like he's full of ideas. Do you know what I mean? And I can get that energy from all of you. And you're almost You feel restricted, but that's only because it's just not happened yet.
Yeah, yeah, possibly.
And I really, honestly, G, I really love the way that you talk about G-Fam as like there's many mediums, because with the way that you're talking about it, it's not, even though G-Fam right now is a parkour based thing,
we're also a clothing brand now.
you're now getting to I mean, no, I don't. This is a
It's
very
merch.
It's merch, but you know what I mean. I can see you guys. Yeah, I'm not going to say where it's going. I'm just very excited to see where G-Fam is going to go. I'm really excited to see what kind of how the style of G-Fam breaks, not just parkour, but low key, seeing what happens, because a lot of you play kendama. Kendama is a kind of bigger thing. The kendama community is growing. So I see that being a possibility. I see videos being like video editing being possible. So yeah, G-Fam is cool. I'm really excited to see where G-Fam goes, and yeah, just mad respect for that. Yeah, just mad respect for what you guys are doing, straight up. I don't really have anything else to say on that. We're coming to the end. I said that about half an hour ago. I'm wondering if there's anyone at home. I say home. Currently, we have Luca, and I think that's Luca and Leonard on the Zoom. If there's any, you've got about 2 minutes to ask any questions or have any last says. Luca, if you want me to say anything about G-Fam, whatever, let me know. Leonard, if you have a question, let me know. You've got a minute or two. And then apart from that, I think that's a good place to end. There's not really, I mean, it's obvious with me and you, and also with me, we can talk for hours about it. But I think there's not really much I want to kind of say, and we've kind of talked a lot about it. So I think there's not much else to say. But yeah, there's a lot of insightful things that you have learned now.
Hey, cheers, man.
Super inspired to see it, my guy. But I think there's a lot of things that you have learned now that in a lot of ways I wish I knew when I was your age, but also at the same time, by you being a part of the community, I am learning that anyway, if you know what I mean. So I think that you guys definitely helped me get more confidence in what I do. And I think that the ending, if I can put it in any kind of way, the ending thing that I take from this is yet again, have fun, have a sound crew, but also build yourself up. And this, for me, this is something, but you were talking about this, the way that you talk about Luca, the way that you talk about Simon, Lucas, Eugene, and Jovan. That'll be the tattoo, innit? I'll get a tattoo of the names on my head. But the way that you talk about these guys, you idolize them. No, we're not going to do odds live on if I get G-Fam names tattooed on my head. That'll be when I'm 80. No, let's not. We're trying to end as well. No. But my point is it really seems when you talk about these guys, how do I put it? You idolize them in a way.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you see that these guys around you are who you look to for inspiration?
Yeah. Like, not only.
Of course not.
But 100%.
And I think that little. Do you want to say more about that, or no? I think that little thing, that idea of being like, it's a Dizzy Wright lyric. If you guys know who Dizzy Wright is, look up The Growing Process. It's amazing. It's really good for that. Peter McKee got me onto that, and it really helped with this. But there's a certain lyric in it that says, and he talks about this as well, this idea of how do you do your art and choosing who's around you. And he says a line of, I'm inspired by who I'm friends with. And I think that is a point that specifically for me, looking at who I'm friends with, I'm lucky to say that all of the people, not all, but a lot of the people that when I was younger I looked up to are now my mates. And not only that, are my mates are the people who inspire me. For example, we've got you, we've got Sam, but my mate Paul Sayer, he's the guy who runs Sound Kendama. And when I sit and look at it, he's like one of the best Kendama players that I know, and he inspires me every day. Do you know what I mean? Marius also on the team, he inspires me. And you know what I mean? There's other people like to be like Ed Scott, who might also be on one of these at one point. He also madly inspires me. Do you know what I mean? And yet he's also one of the main names in the thing. And it's not to just name drop, but it's this idea of anyone can be this idol. Your idol in the parkour. We're so lucky that we can meet our idols. Do you know what I mean? And that's definitely a thing that I sat with Julian Woodstill the other week, and that's madness. If somebody told me 5 years ago you'd be sitting with Julian talking about stuff, I'd be like, no way. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the point: is if you can trick yourself, well, not trick yourself. If you can see the value in your friends, you're going to be good for life almost. Do you know what I mean? If you can do that, so as much as that, find the idols in your friendships. Do you know what I mean? It really look for it. I think a lot of people in the world, especially in parkour, you've got your crew, but you look outwards to see where inspiration, where actually the inspiration that can actually get you to the places that you want to go, are sitting right next to you.
Yeah, I think we're already on the road.
No,
we're just getting to the next stop.
And there isn't a destination.
Exactly. It's a bus line without an end.
So I think a bus line without an end.
Progressing PK culture outside
of the sport. Right? Luca, me and you will obviously have a chat about this at some point.
You should also talk to Luca.
Yeah, I want to talk to Luca for sure.
Because he, like, we're GFam, we're somewhat stylely wise the same, but he's very different.
No, that's the other thing is, within GFam is you guys are all really, really different in a lot of ways, but you all make space for each other. And I think that's also potentially why GFam works really well, is because you are so different. You allow space for that difference. Whereas if you were all looking the same and all had the same values, it wouldn't necessarily integrate as well.
Yeah.
Maybe we can. To be honest, man, we will probably have another chat, an interview at one point again, because we chat all the time. But for me, I think that was pretty good. I had a good time. I hope those people at home could follow our mad train of thoughts, because there are a few times where I'm sure that I started a sentence and then we went a different direction.
100%. I remember myself doing that 200 times.
Yeah, it's cool. It just means that we need to come back and finish the sentences, isn't it? Much love for being there to you, and
thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No, man, it's a genuine pleasure that I am now able to make talking with my friends part of my job. And I love talking about parkour and also exploring. Exploring the difference, as we said, is the more I do parkour, the more I realize it's not actually the parkour that made me love parkour, and that will be explained.
That's also that's one of the biggest things.
I mean, Giles from famous Giles Compiles, he also said that 95% of his inspiration comes outside of the parkour world, and I think that's very interesting. But anyway, we said we were going to stop. So much love.
It's hard to stop.
Man.
See, we're doing it again.
We're doing it again. Much love. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you learned something, and if you didn't, then I hope you just listened to two guys chatting rubbish. So much love. Next week, I think it will be Biko with us. Biko Ruland. He is recently back from Allerup. Yeah, he's back from Allerup, the school in Denmark that I studied at. So I think me and him are going to be talking potentially Allerup. Also in English about Allerup and about that place.
Oh, Biko.
Yeah, Biko's back. So yeah, that's just for next week. Thank you so much for being there. If you enjoyed this conversation, please write in the comments on the Facebook thing, just so that we get some of your feedback. Until next week, have fun. Any last words? No, I'm not going to do that. Any last words? And then Julius. No, thank you so much. Talk soon. And bis nächstes Mal.
Peace out.
Bye. Oh, end meeting for all. Now.